I know that from the book that you've done a number of stands at alternate, mind, body, spirit festivals and that sort of things. And you and the author actually had your auras read.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Oh, it was funny because, trying to make connection with people, you go and try and find a place where you can have your aura read. So, we thought, we'll do this. And because it's actually, it's just a photo of, it's kind of scientific, they take a photo of you, and we do have a kind of aura at times, which is probably maybe, just the heat and reaction of the body or whatever. But anyway, they took my aura, and you wouldn't believe it, they took my aura, and I had, I think it was white around the ears, and I had orange above the white, and there's purple going all the way up. And I'm looking at this aura and thinking, I've got to get out of here. It was all right to get my aura, and I've pinned it on my shirt. They pinned on your shirt, and I'm about to leave, and the woman comes over and says, no, your aura must be red. You've paid for it being red. And I'm thinking, I'm leaving. No, you don't read my aura. So I thought, no, I'll sit down, see where it goes. I sat down, and she said, oh, Ross, she said, she saw my name, Ross. She said, you, oh my gosh, she said, you've got white on either ear. She said, that's a sign of great knowledge. And the fact that it's on either ear means that you receive knowledge and you hand it on. I said, oh, that's lovely. And she said, the colour above the white is a sign of great compassion. You're a very compassionate person receiving and handing on that honour, on this wisdom. I thought, I'll go and tell my students at a Bible college, I'd love to hear that when I mark their assignments. And she said, the purple is the realm, the highest colour. The wisdom that you're receiving and handing on with great compassion is from the highest realm, Ross. And then she looked at my badge and said, oh, you're an exhibitor. She said, what are you doing here with all this wisdom? I said, well, actually, I'm just down there, that stall down there called the Community of Hope, telling everyone about Jesus. Well, I thought I needed to resuscitate her. She almost choked on the...
Wow. Oh, that's incredible.
And I delightfully told her, well, look, if there is any wisdom in me, it comes from the highest realm, and that person is Jesus. Yeah. And Claire, this is a searching world. We spend a lot of time demonising people. I mean, they're asking questions. They don't know about us anymore. They're not sure about the church, but they're pretty open to Jesus. But Jesus is just one of the package they're carrying. So, and they've got yoga and they've got all this other stuff, and they don't know. But the conversation's there for that searching world, but the conversation's for us as well, because whether we like it or not, whatever you view about these practices, you or your spouse or your children or your grandchildren are going to interact with all of these practices. You cannot avoid it. Church people, have the conversation. As we say, you must have it. That's why we put questions and case studies and stuff so you can talk about it as a group or individually, things to do. We can't avoid these issues anymore. It's where spirituality is rubbing against us as Christians in the community today. We need to be informed, prayerful, and make good decisions and responses. And that's what we're seeking to help people to do.
And by having that conversation with that lady and engaging with her, you've opened up her mind to the truth.
Absolutely. Big hugs at the end. And I mean, so at the end she's going, oh my gosh, Jesus is here, God.
Well, you may have made a believer out of her.
Oh, absolutely. And we can talk about people won to Christ at Mind, Body, Spirit festivals who come in and see and respond. And, the interesting thing is, from books like this, we get a lot of positive response from people not in the church, thanking us for talking about issues and raising them and helping them see, because, they want to make informed decisions as well. Often the defence mechanism is more seen in the church than outside the church. We're the ones, though, that need the conversation for our own spirituality, what's happening with our kids and loved ones, but also to missionally engage. This is where the missional engagement is. You sit on a plane and sit next to someone and say, how am I going to get spirituality in? And say, oh, by the way, do you have any connection with yoga? Do you do yoga? Every second person, if not every person, will immediately engage with you. Why? What do you think's happening?
Well, my last question, I have a friend who came to Christian faith via a long journey, firstly seeking answers in the New Age. And he went through Reiki and meditation and all kinds of New Age practices, and eventually had an encounter with God and began to seek Jesus. And it makes me think that God sees what's in people's hearts and what they are seeking, and he works to reach us, even if we're way off track.
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in the 70s, the majority of people who came to faith did through an event, you know, like a Billy Graham crusade. 70% of people who came to faith up until 1970 did through an event. Now, 70% of people who come to faith through a process rather than an event. And there's all sorts of stepping stones in that process. And we've got to be those stepping stones for people. So yeah, they come through a process, and often they might be exploring yoga, and the next minute they're on a plane with you, Claire, and yoga comes up and you raise some issues and concerns. But you know, you also talk about Jesus. You might introduce them to holy yoga. Have they thought about praying to Jesus if they're doing this? And all of a sudden they leave that conversation and something else happens, and someone invites them to church. But that's the process. We've got to be in the process, but don't expect, like, if you've been a Christian for some time, you know, it takes a while to be formed in discipleship and for some of the rubbish to fall off. And so same for people, it's going to take them, they're in a process, and we've got to help them through that process to find out what it is to be a true follower of Jesus. And sometimes when we look at some of the things that are in this book, we might say, hey, I've got to rethink things. I had to rethink my attitude to mindfulness, for example, when I did this book. It was here, and I've moved a bit more over to there. Same with Halloween. I had no time for it. Now I can actually see missional stuff. I've still got no need to be involved in it. So, you know, we need to talk through the issues ourselves and actually ask, okay, have I got a cultural prejudice here, or is this something really biblically I need to look at? And if you just dropped into one of these practices and doing it willy-nilly and not asking questions, well, my gosh, you ought to be asking questions about these practices. You ought to be.